Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili nishmas imimarosi rus bas Mordechai. Rabbi Sai, here we are in a tent in middle of the Masei Mara. You could probably hear hippopotamuses roaring and hyenas making all their different sounds. Beautiful. We're in the middle of Nefleis Habayre. We are coming off a 21-hour journey. We left last night, right after Shir, 9:30 p.m. And we arrived here 21 hours later. So here we are. It happens to be that through the trip and the journey, we were in an airport. We had a stopover for a number of hours, and I was able to make close to 20 charts. The only problem is that I didn't really go over the charts, so I don't know where they are, where they belong. Be'ezer Hashem, it's going to be Gevaldik. So the way the Daf today is constructed, Daf Kuf Yud Amud Beis is full Agadata, and Kuf Yud Amud Aleph is a Sugya. So we'll just say one or two emails, L'chvoid, we have to give an email or two. And I want to give a tremendous yishkoyach to my dear Chaverim, who've been with the Shir from all the way in the beginning, from day one. And they got me this unbelievable matana toiva, a place to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and enjoy his beautiful creation. And the Masei Mara, I had no idea. I was mamish shocked. Just the beauty of the landscape. Forget about all the animals that we saw today. Just driving to the hotel, we saw a crazy volume of animals, but just the landscape and everything. So it's a tremendous yishkoyach. It's very, I don't know, I'm still in shock from the unbelievable gift. Yishkoyach, guys, yishkoyach. And Be'ezer Hashem, we should be able to continue learning Torah here, and it shouldn't be a disturbance. We should be able to pull it off. So real quickly, here's a email from Yerchmiel Seplowitz from Monsey, New York. It's great that you're encouraging your oilam to do Shnai Mikra Vechatargum. After all, and maybe Gishmak to do that, but Shnai Mikra Vechatargum is Medina de Gemara and is hatzlacha and Shulchan Aruch. I think you need to come up with another catchy slogan. How about Parsha twice is really nice, but it's even more Judaic to do it in Aramaic. Yeah, I know. I better not give up my day job. Yerchmiel Seplowitz. Again, Parsha twice is really nice, but it's even more Judaic to do it in Aramaic. Shkoyach. It would be nice if my computer worked. No.
We see it here.
Yeah. Now I have to go back here and see what's going on. It froze up. Oh, what's very interesting, by the way, Rabbi Sai, is that the electric goes off here at midnight. And it is close to midnight here. So if the electric goes off, we'll just have to continue tomorrow.
I'm thinking if I move the camera back a little bit.
Avi Dolties. We are gearing up in Manchester for your visit. I don't know, Gary, what I just played here, regular?
If I move the cameras back a little bit, they can see the screen on the...
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. Saying this tonight with Ethan Freilich, Britain's Jewish talent, Zev Dolties. You going to hear this? I don't know if we're going to hear this.
To be the it's geschmack to do the daf. Geschmack to do the daf.
I see him saying geschmack to do the daf. That's what he's saying. No, okay, whatever. It's not. I don't hear it for some reason. Okay, next. Yosef will be able to do it. So, Rabbi Sai, mdysium.com, and over there you can see the Siyumim in London, Manchester, RBS, New York City, Monsey, Chicago, Calgary, etc. The Koilo is sponsored by nishmas Chaya Bas Yosef. The Masech is sponsored by nishmas Yosef Baruch ben Moshe Aaron, and Eli nishmas Moshe Loza ben Shalom, and for that hatzlacha b'chol hainyanim for my children. The Masech is sponsored by Jeff Razin's zchus of my son Yosef Simcha Chaim ben Chana Refuah Shlaima. Amen. Rest of the Masech, Ofishel Mitzva Motivators for Refuah Shlaima of Avraham Nachum ben Chana Brokho. Parnas HaChodesh Moshe ben Zechurya. And Parnas HaShavua, the last day, we hope that he should finish his research. Vladislav Zakharov in the zchus, that he finishes his research by February. Paras HaShavua, L'zeich nishmas Avraham Nachum ben Refoel Yitzchak. And I should win my court case today. Yeshaya Ben R Moshe. Oh man. Well, I hope if it's against another Jew, I don't know. We should really turn the camera around and see what's going on here. It's going to get volatile. And what, you're going to show it? The way these rooms work, they're tents. Tents in middle of, and 5 feet beyond the tent that way is a river, and there's hippopotamuses and crocodiles right there, right below us. There's a electric fence that doesn't allow them to come up, but it's literally 5 feet. Daf Yomi Amud Aleph. So, says the Mishnah, sponsored by Moshe Cohen, zchus, parnasa, being able to support, no, that's something else. Zchus for limud Torah and continued hatzlacha in parnasa. Oh, you can't forget that Nedarim is coming up. Nedarim is coming up any day, and we have a new recruit with us in the room. We found him here somewhere in the Masimara, and we're schlepping him. That's Norm's recruit. I have nothing to do. Be'ezer Hashem is going to join us for Nedarim. Your first recruit, your best. If you get this guy, he's unbelievable. All right. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Hamoitzi shtar choy v'chaveiroi v'haloi hoitzi shemochar lo yisasada. So if you look at the graph over here, we have Noam Fix who's with me, and we have Avi Kamyansky who's showing up tomorrow. Basically, two things happen there. Reuven lent money to Shimon. And then Shimon says, it's not true. I can prove to you that it's false. It's not true that I borrowed money from you. How do I know? Because how much did I borrow from you? I borrowed $1 million from you? Okay. So then why in the world did you sell me real estate for $1 million? When I gave you the money for the real estate, you should have chopped that money to pay up the loan. Why would you give me real estate instead of that? It doesn't make any sense. If I owe you money, why are you adding to it and giving me a field, real estate? So you see over here in the graph, you see that Reuven did two things. Reuven claims he gave him $1 million. He also claims he sold him a property for $1 million. Says Shimon, it makes no sense. So therefore, he's tying that either he already paid it back or it's false. The whole star is false. Admon Oimer. So remember, Perek Shnei Dayan Gzeros, we're in the 7 Gzeros that Admon instituted. Admon Oimer Yochelu Sheyomer Ilu Yisichayev L'cha Hoyel Li Para Hashelcha Kishemachart Li Sasada. When you sold me the field, you should have chopped the money and said that's for paying up the loan, and then don't give me the field. No, we're talking about a very smart, clever individual. He did a trick here. He says, listen, Shimon is not a guy that's going to pay me back the loan. So what am I going to do? I'll never see the $1 million. But what I could do is I could sell him a piece of real estate for $1 million. So I'll get $1 million. And now I'm trading in the $1 million that I gave him once upon a time for a piece of real estate. Now I could go after the real estate. Now I'm going to try to get my real estate back. Now I'll have $1 million in my pocket, paid off, plus my real estate I'll get back. So it's a very smart trick. Says the Gemara, my time of the Rabbanan. Shabbat Admon. Admon has a good title though. I see you guys like the Chacham's title, but Admon I also do. But Chachamim, the Gemara seems to say that Admon's title is a very strong title. We have to understand what Chachamim have to say against it. That what? If I really owe you $1 million, why in the world are you selling me more property on top of the $1 million that I owe you? You should just take the money for yourself to pay off the loan. Shimon tells Reuven, if I really owe you $1 million, why are you, Reuven, selling me a property? Take the money for yourself. Says the Gemara. But here, the Gemara brings up a point that's very important. Because of course we have to understand what came first. If he's grabbing if Reuven gets $1 million in his pocket, so he could say, stop, this is to pay off the loan. Why would he not say pay off the loan? Why would he give him a piece of property? Obviously, he didn't get $1 million in his pocket. So what did he get? Nothing. A contract on a piece of real estate. If he got the money first, so then there's a big tie on him. You should have taken that money to pay off the loan. So why did you tell me a field? Because the machlokes is because we're talking about a place that he wrote that they write a star first. Where do they do that? Everywhere in the world. I mean, today that's how you buy real estate. First, you write a contract, then you pay the money. So, if it's a place that you write a star first, and then he gets money, so he has no choice really because he already wrote a star, a contract on his piece of property. But Abin says he should go ahead to two them and whisper in the ear and say, listen, I'm only selling this piece of property because I want to go after the property and not after the money. But he didn't do so. Why did he chap two them? Rabban Savri, and we had this far before, you can't expect him to go to two Eidim and whisper something in their ears because everybody has a wife and everybody has a friend that you by mistake spill the beans to, and that friend goes ahead and tells another friend, and before you know it, it gets back to Shimon, the bad guy here in this case, who doesn't want to pay up a loan, and he won't buy a piece of property. He's not a fool. He knows why the guy is selling him the property now. Chavra islay, v'chavra the chavra islay. Says the Heilige Mishnah, sponsored by Moshe called zchus, Limud Torah, hatzlacha barnasa. Shnaim shoytziu shtar chayiv zalzeh. Continue with the same kind of idea, but a little different. Here's the idea. Ruvain lent money to Shimon. Then Shimon, I see even the live shear is not good for you. You're falling asleep with that too, huh? Then Shimon goes ahead and lends money to Ruvain. No, whatever. Okay, I don't have to explain the whole of what happened here. So Shimon goes, and you hear what happened? Ruvain lends money to Shimon, and then Shimon turns around and lends money back to Ruvain. Oh, that's exactly the idea. All you're doing is returning the thing. Why am I borrowing money from you? No, each person collects on his own. Itmar. So we have a beautiful machlokes here. Rav Nachum Omar, our case. Reuven pulls out a star and says that Shimon owes him money, and Shimon pulls out a star that Reuven owes him money at a different date. They overlap each other. Rav Nachum Omar, ze goyva. Each one collects. So let's say Reuven lent Shimon $100, and Shimon lent Reuven $100. Each one individually collects. Rav Sheshes Omar, hapuchi matrosa lamali. By the way, Gary, is it nice, good lighting? Is the face lit up? Everything is good, or it looks like a dark room? Because I feel like I'm in a dark room. So we have a svara here. We have to remember the svara because we've been using the svara a lot. Hapuche matrosa. All we do until we get to the new sug is the bottom, the Mishnah on the bottom. The Mishnah on the bottom. Okay. He loves it. He loves going around. Yeah. Hi, come. You want to sit over here next to me? It is going off soon. So listen to this svara. If you're holding two heavy bags, you have two heavy loads on your shoulder, it makes no sense, if they equal weight, it makes no sense to switch them, right? Two heavy bags, both weigh 25 pounds each. You don't switch them. You switch if one weighs 5 pounds, one weighs 20 pounds. If I owe you 100 and you owe me 100, why am I giving you 100, you give me 100? Just keep it as is. So Mara wants to understand, where do we say this svara? Where does this make an afkamina or not? There's a very interesting story that Ben Ish Chai says in a sefer. He has this sefer of stories. And he says that a person had a suitcase full of jewels, and he was going to the marketplace to sell it. He was going to a far-off place. And his father said, listen, I want to give you an eitzah. Don't carry a suitcase in one hand. It's very heavy. What you need to do is, you need to counterbalance it with another suitcase. Otherwise, it'll damage your body. So take a suitcase full of stones. Let's say this suitcase of jewels weighs 40 pounds. Take a suitcase, another suitcase of 40 pounds of stones. And like that, you walk around and you'll be able to survive. Your body won't break. So his friend sees him walking with two suitcases. What's going on here? He says, one is full of jewels, one is stones. Why? My father said it's going to balance out my body. Says this guy, it makes no sense. Take the stones out, throw them away. Take half of your jewels and put them in the other suitcase. You'll have a balance of jewels. Why balance with stones? He says, I don't know. My father told me to do it. That's what I'm doing. I listen to my father. And he gets on a boat. You know the Maisa? He gets on a ship. And all of a sudden, a big storm comes. and the captain of the ship comes and he says, listen, unfortunately, every one of you has to take one piece of luggage and throw it into the ocean. Half of your luggage. So he took his stones, threw it into the ocean, and his jewels survived. And he said, sometimes you don't understand why, but you have to listen to your father. You have to listen to your father. We don't always understand. So, to take one package and put on the other side, and the other side, that makes no sense. So, says Rav Sheshes, nobody gives anybody anything. I owe you 100, you owe me 100. It's a wash, and that's it. Says the Gemara, the Kuli Almi Idis Vidis. Okay, so I want to show you real quickly what we have. 3 types of properties: Idis, Beinanis, and Ziburis. So today I did Idis is Yerushalayim. You know what? The best place in the world to live is Yerushalayim. What? Chart number 3. It is extremely expensive. We'll call Manhattan Beinanis. It's not nice to say Manhattan is Idis. Shleim is Idis. Manhattan is Beinanis. And Ziburis is Kenya. The stuff that we saw, we'll call it Iowa. Okay? We'll take pictures tomorrow. One of these days we'll show what Ziburis looks like. Okay, great. So if I have Idis, you have Idis, you have Beinanis, I have Beinanis, Ziburis and Ziburis. So it doesn't make any sense that I should take your part in Yerushalayim and you take my part in Yerushalayim. We're trading the same thing. Don't do anything. Ki pligi, where's the machlokes? This lay lechad Beinanis or lechad Ziburis. Here, as you can see in the picture, number 4, Ruvain has an apartment in Manhattan, and Shimon has a house in Iowa. A Ziburis. Kipligi, this lay lachad, Beinanis is lachad Ziburis. Rav Nachum sover ze goyve v'ze goyve kasavar b'shaloyim sham. So we have a big machlokes here. We know that when it comes to a loan, the B'chayv takes from Beinanis, from the medium stuff. But what's medium? Medium to the entire world. So we know that Manhattan is going to be Beinanis to the whole world, or medium compared to what that person owns. That person could own stuff in Tokyo and I don't know where, places that are more expensive than Manhattan. So Manhattan is a Ziburis. Does it go by him or it goes by the world? It goes by him. Osi Bal Ziburis, so check this out. Comes Shimon and grabs the Beinanis. Sorry, where is it? Back here. Okay, so you're watching? Ruvain has Beinanis. And Shimon collects his Beinanis. Now, when you see this chart, what happens? Ruvain goes back and has collect from Shimon. Right? They're each collecting from each other. So look what happens. Ruvain, in this case, cannot take the apartment in Manhattan. Why? Because the apartment in Manhattan is Shimon's what? Idis. Because it goes by each individual according to this Mandamar. It's relative to him. So what is he going to take, Ruvain? Take a look. What happened? Nothing happened. Oh, he takes his Ziburis. A tremendous nafkamina just happened there. Ruvain went from owning an apartment in Manhattan to owning Ziburis, Iowa. And Shimon ended up with the apartment in Manhattan. It's almost not fair. They have an identical loan. They owe each other $500,000, but because Shimon struck first, and that's the Gemara is going to ask, who says Shimon strikes first? Shimon struck first, he took the Beinanis, the apartment in Manhattan. Then when Ruvain had a chance, he could take only the Ziburis because the apartment in Manhattan became the Idis. It's the top stuff. Okay. And now it turns into Idis. What? Yeah, said the B'chayv gets Beinanis, yeah. Right, Mendy, you hear me saying it? And then comes Reuven and takes back the Ziburis, so he gets messed up. Rav Sheshes Amar, Hafuchi Matrasa Lamali. Rav Sheshes says no. Where am I? Why am I going this way? I have no idea where these charts go now. Here's Ziburis. The next chart should be this. Oh, Kosovar b'shel kol adam shamim. At the end of the day, says Rav Sheshes, we go by the world. And therefore, if Shimon is going to grab the baitiness of the world, so Reuben is going to go take it right back, the baitiness of the world. It doesn't go relative to what he has. And Memela, they're both going to end up with the same exact thing that they started out with. Kosovar b'shel kol adam shamim. Saif. Ki osi ahu beinin is the nasheka shakol. He comes and he takes back his own apartment from Manhattan, right? So he's going to end up with the apartment in Manhattan. Reuben is going to end up with the apartment in Manhattan, and Shimon is going to stay with the Ziburis in Iowa. Says Gemara, Rav Nachman, my chazis dasi bal Ziburis. That's why he says don't do anything. So waste the time. So don't do anything. Rav Nachman, my chazis dasi bal Ziburis bereisha. This whole thing works. Why? Because Shimon struck first. Leisi bal beinin is bereisha v'lig Ziburis here. If Reuven grabs the Ziburis first, and then Shimon cannot take the baitiness of Manhattan, he has to take the Ziburis right back. Because when he has two things, he's going to take the lower of the two. In Rav Nachman, that Rav Nachman says it goes relative to a person, so now he could only take, so he takes the Ziburis back. Why do you say that Shimon ends up with the apartment in Manhattan when Shimon, that's only if Shimon strikes first, but if Reuven strikes first, Shimon will remain with the apartment, with the house in Iowa. Says the Gemara, the reason is because Shimon sued first. Okay, he sued first, but they both go to Bezdin, they're there together. We have to say another story. It goes like this. Reuven has two apartments, one in Yerushalayim, one in Manhattan. It's not so unheard of. There's a lot of people that have that. So he has a Idis and a Beininus. Shimon, on the other hand, lucky he's not here today, he has a Ziburis in Iowa. And therefore, Mar Sovar. I can't read my own handwriting. You go relative to your own. So you do this. So Shimon gets the baitiness. He gets the least of the two. Okay, that's fair. He gets baitiness. And then Reuven comes and he has to take the Ziburis. So now he just traded out an apartment in Manhattan for a house in Iowa. Umar Savar. No, this is the next case. Hold on, let's go back. Umar Savar shall kol adam imsham. We go based on what's normal, and therefore they end up with the same thing. Reuven will just get his apartment back in Manhattan and Shalom Yisrael. Says the Gemara. Tanan v'chamorim ze goiva v'ze goiva. At the end of the day, is each one does a deal. I pay you 100 and you pay me back 100. So that's a kash on who? On Rav Sheshes, who says you don't do anything. Rav Sheshes says you just stay put. You see, ze goiva, you actually collect. Take him Rav Nachman to leave the Rav Sheshes. He explains Rav Sheshes. Ki goin shalov v'zeh l'eser shanim v'zeh l'chamesh. Oh. Very nice. Rav Nachman is explaining Rav Sheshes even though he argues with him. What happened was there's two loans. We want to explain, again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to explain how do you have a situation where even though the loan is maybe the same amount of money, it makes sense for one person to collect and not just keep it. Don't say it's a wash. I owe you 100, you owe me 100. Don't say it's a wash. I have a situation, I have a case where it's not a wash. Where's it not a wash? Where one loan is a longer loan. It's for more time. So it makes more sense for me to collect and not wait until you pay back. Because you're only paying back in 10 years from now. And I want a loan right now. So it's not a wash. Let's see. Something like that. There's a case where one of them, we'll see in a second who, one of them borrowed for 10 years and one borrowed for 5 years. What's the case? We're almost finished here. And then we go into Agad. If you say the first one here in this case, Ruvain lent Shimon for 10 years. Visheni, and then Shimon turns around and lends money to Ruvain for 5 years. In that case, Amon would say, how is it possible that I have ever borrowed money from you? You see that it's not true because look, you borrowed money from me. Why would he say something like that? No, they're not similar. Reuven lent money for 10 years. He'll never see his money for 10 years. It's a very, very long time. So therefore, he turned around and borrowed money from Shimon because it's less of a loan. That makes sense. So that can't be the case. Hello, Rishon l'Chomesh. What happened was Reuven lent money to Shimon for 5 years. And then, after Reuven lent money to Shimon for 5 years, he borrowed money from Shimon for 10 years. Says Gemara, if the time came back to pay, my time of the Rabbanan. So what's going on here? Did the time come to pay back or not? Says Gemara, so, interesting case. He lent it for 5 years. 5 years is 1,825 days, I think. I can't read anything here, but something like that. 1,800. So on day 1,824, he decided to take out a loan. It's coming due. He's going to have the money in his hand tomorrow, but he decided to borrow a day before. There's such a thing. So somebody gets in a jam, he's so desperate for money, he'll borrow money even though he has it coming in a day. Avin says, so that's the machlokes here. No, doesn't make any sense that somebody will do it. Even if a person is very, very desperate, you just wait out 24 hours and the money is his. Says Gemara, I have another pshat. How do I have a situation where it makes more sense for one of the borrowers? They're not equal. They're not on equal footing, even though it's the same amount of money. When we're dealing with the assignment, the yasmin megavagave agvule magbina minayu. They could collect, and you don't take from them. Says Gemara, v'zeh goyva katani. You're telling me that you cannot collect from a Yosef. So it's a one-way street. The Yosef collects from you, and you don't collect from him. But it says the words, Zeh v'zeh goiva. You collect from him, and he collects from you. So you can't be talking about Yosef. Says the Gemara, okay, we'll be doichek. Zeh goiva v'zeh roilig voice. Vein loy. Yay! He doesn't have. Amarava, shtei tshuva ispadavar. 2 bomb questions. Chada, the zeh goiva katani. I don't like your pshat. It's too much of a tchak. It says in Mefurish that each one collects. Void, the Gebina Aro, Liyasma, V'lahadr, I have a great trick. Let the Yosem collect property. V'lahadr, then you turn around and grab it back from the Yosem. If a Yosem collects karka, you go and take away karka from Yosem. So you pay the Yosem karka and then turn around and grab it from him. Kashio. Says Gemara, Velukma, this is the Yasmin Ziburus. This the day, Idisu Benanis. Think you have a picture here? Oh. Ooh. Sorry.
See the chart number.
Chart number 19. 19 charts so far. The guy, the adult, Ruvain, he has Idis and Benanis. The Yosem only has Zibur. It's the same thing that we said before, but it's the same case, but we're putting in the Yasmi here. This is the Yasmi Zibur, this lately the day it is Ubenis. That's the Yasmi, go Ubenis. Now the Yasmi comes and collects a Benanis. And Ruvain is left taking the lesser of the two, which is the Ziburis. So now the Yasmi gets a Benanis, Ruvain is stuck with the Ziburis. The Naim Shel Koladam in Shamim. Reuven can only collect. You see, look what's going on here. The Yosef has Ziburis. He collected a Beinonus. But even if you say that we go by the Beinonus of, thank you, wow, shkoyach. Even if you say that you go by the Beinonus of the world, and therefore Reuven should be able to collect his apartment in Manhattan back, what happens is no. The Yosef keeps the apartment in Manhattan, and unfortunately, this doesn't look like it's charged, and I don't think it's recording.
Serious?
This guy. Is that a bit?
No, it's not music.
Oh, we're not? I should turn it off?
Yeah. Well, you only recorded from Yosef's thing.
So the two mics are just for shtick? Okay. I like that.
Is the other thing recording?
Gary is a big tzaddik. Gary is a big tzaddik. I promise, Kepele to his. Okay, now Yosef has something to edit. Shkoya. Sugar.
You almost got to the Mishnah.
I got the Mishnah, but we were not eating now. We already ate. Okay, Zok the Gemara.
Why is it so down?
Maybe Gary's not such a big tzaddik after all. We look for this business. That's yes, we go from business. Doilim is tired. Doilim is hungry. Doilim wants to go to sleep. Oh, seriously, the guys in 21 hours. I'll tell you later. It's not for this year. The guys only slept an hour and a half in the last 48 hours, something like that. Okay, says the Gemara. You hear what's going on here? Even if typically you take the apartment back from Manhattan and from Ziburis, could you not go by over here? Thank you. Yeah, whatever.
You want light?
Why?
I'll get you a light.
I have light. Oh, don't worry about it. Says Gemara, beautiful. The fact that typically a Yosem, you can't take a Ziburis, you can't take a Beinus from a Yosem. That's in a typical case. But who owned the apartment in Manhattan? Look at the case again. Reuven owned the apartment in Manhattan. So he's a typhus. If he chaps, then you don't take it out. Did he chap over here? He didn't have to chap. It was his to begin with. It's a tremendous... So that's why Reuven gets back his apartment in Manhattan. Chasal the Pesach, we're holding by the Mishnah. And now, here goes, pretty much, I got to the end of the Masechta Beis Hashem. Says the Eli Mishnah, sponsored by Mishikol zchus, limit Torah, and continue hatzlacha parnasa. Shalosh aratzis l'nesun. There are 3 lands in marriage, Yehuda, ve'ver yardim agol. 3 pieces of Eretz Yisrael that are important for Eretz Yisrael's divided in 3. Yehuda, ve'ver yardim agol. Emoitzim mi'ir le'ir. You don't force your wife to move from one town to another town, or mikrach likrach, from a big city to another large city. You don't go force her to go from Haifa to Tel Aviv. Aval ba'oisa haaretz moitzin mi'ir le'ir u'mikrach likrach. In the same province, the article says, moitzin mi'ir le'ir u'mikrach likrach. Right. In one of those 3, you could force from one city to another and from one town to another town. The turning of the daf, sponsored by who? As a zchus, to be able to continue to support Torah and finish Shas with Reb Eli. And you cannot force from a city to a town, from a town to a city. Moitzin minova hara l'nova yafa, from a nicer house to a fakir, from a raw to a yafa, to a nicer one. Avaloi minova yafa, from a nicer place, not so much a house, a nicer place. Avaloi minova yafa l'nova hara. My wife would love this Mishnah actually, but at the end of the day, not so much, because when you go from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, it's a whole different story. You can't even force her to go from a not such a nice place to a nicer place. In other words, different diseases happen when you go into a nicer place. and therefore you can't force somebody to follow you. Says the Gemara, Bishlam el krach leir, the bekrach shchichi kol mili. In a city, you have everything, right? Even today, you have a suit store, you have the hat store, you have the fish and the this and the butcher. You have everything you need. Nothing you don't need. It used to be like Bet Shemesh, you had to like sometimes drive to Yerushalayim for stuff. Remember those days? Not anymore. Now it's the only thing you have to drive to Yerushalayim is for a hospital. We don't have a hospital yet. But other than that, we basically have everything. It's coming one day. Elo mi'ir lekrach my time. Why could you force it to go from a city, Bishlam lekrach le'ir, from a city to
Makes sense.
to a town that you can't. The bekrach shichi, you're taking away all her comforts and luxury. Elo mi'ir lekrach my time. Why can you not force her? Yeah, you're upgrading. It's hard to move into a city. So you have to see Rashi, right? The beautiful Rashi. Anybody that lives in New York or lived in New York or visited New York knows what Rashi is saying here. Yeshivas krachim kosher, shakol misiyashim shom. Everybody wants to live there. V'doichakim. They're like sardines. You ever New York, Brooklyn? There's literally 3 to 4 feet between houses. It's crazy. And there's no oxygen to breathe. Be'ir, more like a suburb. Yesh ganois. You have a front yard, a backyard. Upardesim smuchim. Lebotim va'aviron yofa. If you need to come in, maybe you should go around from the other side, no? Okay. Okay, fine. Vavir Yofat, good ear. We understand this stuff. Says the Gemara, how do you know it's bad? It's hard to live in a city. Shenemar. They had to give a bracha to the people that volunteered to live in Yerushalayim because it's hard. That you can't even force to go from a bad dwelling to a nicer dwelling. Why? Because it checks your body. When you change your routine, that's when you start getting sick. So we already had this in Yevamis, I think it was. Ben Sira wasn't like it's not a Jewish sefer, but it's brought out in Gemara, and he has a lot of divrei chachma. So sometimes the stuff that's brought out in Gemara is reliable, but not everything he says is emes. Some of the stuff is like mamish tusim, I think. But the Gemara brings down stuff, and whatever the Gemara brings down is valid. So it says in Ben Sira, Kol Yimei Ani Roim. It's a whole history with him. He lived at the end of the Beis Rishon, I think, and his grandson translated it. That's what we have today. A whole thing. Kol Yimei Ani Roim. It says in the pasuk, the days of the pauper, the very bad. Ask the Gemara, why is that true? At the end of the day, you have Shabbos and Yom Tov. Even a pauper eats geschmack, gefilte fish. It's not so bad. Says Gemara Shmuel, Shuni Veses Tchilas Cholimayim. Because even for him, Shabbos is bad because he's changing the routine and it causes disease. Ben Sira Oimer Afleilois. Not only are his days bad, but his nights are bad. Bishval Ganim Gagoy. It's Noiravayim. A person who's poor, what could he afford? He affords a lower house on the bottom of the hill. All the rain pours onto his roof. On the flip side, when it comes to his vineyard, he can only afford the vineyard that's on top of the hill. So all of his fertilizer gets washed out by the rain and goes to the rich guy on the bottom. Bishval Ganim Gagoy Umrim Harim Karmoy. Mimtar Ganim Leganoy Mefar Karmel Chromim. Says the Elegim Mishnah, sponsored by Moshe zchus for limit Torah and continue hatzlacha in Parnasa. Akol Mal Eretz Yisrael. You hear this? Noirvayim can force a woman to move to Eretz Yisrael. A woman can force her husband to move to Eretz Yisrael. Ve'nakol Moitzin, and you cannot force somebody to leave Eretz Yisrael. Hakol Malim Yerushalayim. Ve'enakol moitziin. Yerushalayim. This is interesting because it's not really a mitzvah to live in Yerushalayim. There are certain things that you can only do in Yerushalayim, like Meiser Sheni. But you can force your wife, and your wife can force you to move to Yerushalayim. Ve'enakol moitziin, and you cannot force them out of there. There's an interesting story by Reb Yitzchak Zilberstein. He says that there's a woman from São Paulo, Brazil, who wanted to force her husband to move to Eretz Yisrael. And she went to Reb Eli. And Reb Eli said, is there no other reason why you want to move to Eretz Yisrael? She says, no, I learned in the Mishnah that I can force my husband to come to Eretz Yisrael. So basically, the story is, if I'm not mistaken, something to the effect that they brought this story to Reb Eli. Reb Eli figured out by talking to the woman and asking questions back and forth that since she married an older man, way older than her, so the rule is in Brazil that you don't inherit somebody if you marry somebody that's way older than you. Because they're worried about gold diggers, whatever. So therefore she devised a tactic to force her husband to come to Eretz Yisrael, and he'd say no, you have to divorce her, a whole maisa, and that's why. For that, you don't force a husband to give a divorce. Says the Mishnah. Nasa isha b'Eretz Yisrael v'girsha b'Eretz Yisrael. Nasa l'mim b'Eretz Yisrael. I'm sorry, I might have skipped. Echad ha'anashim, echad ha'anashim. A woman can force her husband. A husband can force the wife. Nasa isha b'Eretz Yisrael v'girsha. He married her in Eretz Yisrael and then he divorced her. B'Eretz Yisrael v'noisin la v'girsha b'Eretz Yisrael. He married her in Eretz Yisrael v'girsha b'Eretz Yisrael and divorced in Eretz Yisrael. Noisin la m'mayis Eretz Yisrael. So the Kesubos says, "M'tayim zuz." He gives her Israeli money, Eretz Yisrael money. Nasa isha b'Eretz Yisrael v'girsha v'kapoitika. He married her in Eretz Yisrael and he divorced her in kapoitika. Now kapoitika, the money is heavier, more valuable. Noisin la m'mayis Eretz Yisrael because he married her in Eretz Yisrael, so it goes by Eretz Yisrael. Nasa isha b'kapoitika. He married her in kapoitika where the money is more valuable. V'girsha b'Eretz Yisrael and divorced in Eretz Yisrael. Nasa la m'mayis Eretz Yisrael. In other words, Eretz Yisrael always wins. But if he married a woman in America and divorced in America, he pays in dollars. Hakol mal nasuyimai. Hakol. The word hakol, what does it come to include? Lasuya avodim. What kind of avodim are we talking about? Look inside. Eved, ivri. The reason I'm pointing this out, because in a line from now, it's going to switch to Eved Knani. That is, you could force, Eved Knani, of course you could force to move to Eretz Yisrael. He's yours. But even your Eved Ivri, who his whole mishpacha lives in New York, you could force him to move with you to Eretz Yisrael. And if you read the word avodim in the Mishnah straight out, lasuyimai, lasuye minova yofel and nova ro. To go from a nice house to an ugly house in Eretz Yisrael. Right, a nice house in Chutz to, what did I say? Okay, from a gorgeous house in Chicago, 12,000 square foot home in Chicago, to an apartment in a 5-story building with a dirty elevator every day and 2,000 square feet in Bet Shemesh. You can force that. And if she doesn't like it, divorce without a ksuba. Now, okay. Hakol. You can't. No one could force anyone to leave Eretz Yisrael and make a yirida. Over here now we're talking about Eved Knani, who ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Even him you can't force to go back to Chutz La'aretz. Some over here and go. Why? Everybody could force somebody to move to Yerushalayim. It's funny, because here we are sitting in Chutz La'aretz. We just left Eretz Yisrael, and we're learning a 3-daf sugya about how no one should live in Chutz La'aretz, and a bunch of Rishayim for living in Chutz La'aretz. And the reason is very simple. I know, because I don't want to sit here in Eretz Yisrael and be haughty on all my American mishpacha and chaverim, and I wanted to come down to their level and talk to them from where they are, not sit on a high thing and look down at them, and they'll think I'm looking down. So I came down. Pasha came down. Mamash makes sense, no? Oh, yeah, he is. So true. So true. True. Yeah. Okay, weiter. He's going to stick his word in. But this we already said. Okay, fine. Even though there's no chiddush, but we say it in the seif as well. The same lashon ein mitzim. Tana Rabbanan. Hu oimer la'alois v'hi oimeres shalei la'alois. We have a fight between a couple. He says, "Let's move to Eretz Yisrael." She says, "I don't feel like it. I like my luxury. I love my Chanel, my 3 cars, the whole thing." It used to be, today I don't know how it is, it's probably a lot of money, but it used to be like you lease a Toyota Sienna, $250 a month. You're sitting great. You do your carpool, everything's good. Automatic doors, push the button, they open, they close. You know what I'm saying? Today it's like $7,000 a month because of COVID, the whole thing. Okay, if you can get it, yeah. Like $50. Remember those cars? You could get a hybrid Honda. I don't even know the name because it's all electric for $50 a month because Obama was giving them for whatever. So she doesn't want. She wants her shaitels, the whole thing, the clothing. She doesn't want to come to Eretz Yisrael. So who oimer la'alois v'oimer shalelais koifen ois la'alois, you force her. Now you got to see this taisus, Rabbi. You got to see this taisus. Who oimer la'alois says taisus einu noig b'zman hazeh, can't force her. Dika sakonas drochim. It's very difficult to get to Eretz Yisrael. Wherever Reb Chaim the achshov einu mitzvah lo Eretz Yisrael. So this is a whole sugya. Everybody takes for granted that it's a mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael. I don't want to spoil anybody's mitzvahs. The people that are very into Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, it is machlokes rishonim if there's a mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael b'zman hazeh. Let's assume it is.
Is it mitzvah kiyuvis or kiyumis? Kiyumis there is. If you come to Eretz Yisrael, you kind of mitzvah. Every minute, every this.
Okay, no. The problem is, look what Taisa says over here. Taisa says, "Ki yesh kama mitzvahs hatluis ba'aretz v'kama anoshim." Anoshim. It's not with the anoshim. It's einshim. It's a lashon of einish. De'ein anu yicholim nizar mehem v'lamid aleim. Taisa is saying that you shouldn't live in Eretz Yisrael because there's certain averis that you do over here that you wouldn't be over in chutz la'aretz. Okay, I like the shak doilam. Everybody's so used to I wish I could do aliyah. I just I don't have it in me. One day I will. So there's other rishonim, there's other things to look at and how that applies to. I'm not passing. I'm just reading a taisvus. That's it. He says there's certain averis that one could do only in Eretz Yisrael that we have to be careful with. Okay. Vimlav, if she doesn't want to move to Eretz Yisrael, teitze b'lo ksuba. She doesn't get ksuba. Hi oimeres la'alois. Here is la'alois v'oimeres loy la'alois. She wants to move to Eretz Yisrael, and he says no. Koifen oisai la'alois. You have to force him. Vimlav yoitzi v'yiteng ksuba. He has to divorce her and give her ksuba. Hi oimeres lotzais v'oimeres lotzais. She wants to move back. V'oimeres lotzais. That's a little bit what we have in my mishpacha. Force her to stay, tie her up to the wall. She can't leave. Vimlav, and if she really doesn't like to be tied to the wall, gets a divorce, no ksuba. He wants to leave, and she says absolutely not. So we force him. Vimlav, and if not, Yosef thinks so. Nasa Yisha, Hogavagash, Tani Nasa Yisha, Beretz Yisrael, Vigisha Bekapoitika. Noisin La, Memoizer Yisrael. We said in the Mishnah that if he married a woman in Eretz Yisrael and then he divorced her in Kapoitika and Chutz La'aretz, he pays her with his Eretz Yisrael money, Alma Basa Shibud Azlinan. So we go by where the obligation occurred, the Shibud. Ema Seifa, Nasa Yisha, Bekapoitik, Vigishim, Eretz Yisrael, Noisin La, Memoizer Yisrael. So how come if he married a woman in Chutzlars, that's the sheep would have in the Chutzlars, any divorce in Eretz Yisrael, he still has to give her Eretz Yisrael money. We go by the collection. You're right. Since Kesubos is only the Rabbanon, therefore we go. It's one of the things that we're makel, and every single time we go by Eretz Yisrael. Says Gemara, Kesava Kesuba the Rabbanon. Reb Shimon, yeah, it's because he always Kesubos the Rabbanon. Reb Shimon, Kesava Kesuba the Raisa. You machmer on him, you give him the heavier money from Kavaitik. Torah Rabbanon, Hamoitzi Shtar Choyva Chaveira. Kasav boy. Now Shtar Choyv is different. If it says he has a loan document and it says Kasav boy Bavel. Magbeo Memoiz Bavel. So where's the phone? I just need a phone to pointer for 2 minutes till we get to the bottom. It's a little darker. Fine. Got it? No, it's like this. Okay, perfect. Am I ruining the picture? Nah, it's fine. Kosav boy Eretz Yisrael. If it says Eretz Yisrael, Magbei Mois Eretz Yisrael. 2 more minutes. Kosav boy stop. What if it doesn't say a country in it? Haitzioi. So he's goiva bevavel. Magbei Mois Bavel. Depends where he collects. If he went to collect it in Bavel, he gets Bavel money, American money. Haitzioi Eretz Yisrael. If he collected in Eretz Yisrael, Magbei Mois Eretz Yisrael. Kosav boy Kesef. What if it says silver? Stam. Mashirta. Loiva Magbeu. Now, whatever he wants. So I have one more chart here. Let's see if I can get to it. Oh, there's more charts here. Here. So if you remember this chart, 1 cell equals 4 dinar, and 1 dinar equals 6 ma, and 1 ma equals 2 punyan. These are all silver coins. So he could give him anything he wants. He could give 200 slime, he could give 200 dinarim, 200 mas. It doesn't say what it is. It just says X amount of silver pieces. Mashenkin b'ksuva, you can't do that b'ksuva. Ahaya. What does that mean? Mashenkin b'ksuva. On the last words that we just said, or perhaps it's in the beginning of the brayso that Hamoitzi shtar choy v'chaver because of magbei mimois bavel. You should give him from the country that he's at. Omer Amshasha Reisha. It's that part of the brayso. Since it's a ksuva, we hold ksuva the Rabbanon. So you always go by Eretz Yisrael, whether it originated in Eretz Yisrael or whether you're collecting in Eretz Yisrael. You always go with Eretz Yisrael. Why do you think it's one of these coins over here, a dinar or a ma? Maybe it means a bar of silver. It says 20 silver, 20 bars of silver. Maybe that's the pshat. Because it says coin, it doesn't say bar. Okay, so maybe it's a pruta, much less. People don't do that, they don't make it. Unbelievable. A person should live in Gaza versus Lakewood Iraq Kodesh. That guy, we met the guy Kaufman. He was my neighbor in Brooklyn many years ago, and he told me he lives in Yerushalayim of America, Cleveland. That's what he said. He said, you heard him say it? He said because Cleveland is very not materialistic and it's just a beautiful people and Yerushalayim America. But it says over here that a person should live in Eretz Yisrael, afilu be'ir sheru b'ayv t'kechavim. Even in a city that's mostly Arabs, don't know what. And don't live in Chutzlars in a city that's mostly Jewish Lakewood. By the way, I'm just thinking, because every time I just thought about this second, didn't think about it before, but I'm pretty sure that when we say in Hallel, Eloya, and there's a mapik hey, so everybody goes, Eloya. That's not how you say it. It's Eloya. It's a not a ha. Most people say ha, because they think it's a hey with that thing. I'm just pointing it out. I'm not a big baldik duk, but I once learned this, and it's Eloah. Okay, now a big Baldiktuk is going to write to me tomorrow that I made a mistake, and he's probably right. Okay, but whatever. For now, I have the mic, and that's what I decided. It's a loy ah. If you live in Chutz La'aretz, it's as if you don't have Hashem, you don't have a God. It's connected. The Eretz Canaan, the Eretz Yisrael is Liyos Lachem Le'Elikim. I'll be your Hashem if you have Eretz Canaan. What if you don't live in Eretz Yisrael? You don't have a God. It's as if you're worshiping idols. V'chein b'David oimer ki gershuni ayoim mistapeach. They how do you say gershuni? They chased me out of there, and mistapeach b'nachlas Hashem, and that caused me not to be attached to the nachlas Hashem. They ostracized me. What? Okay, Gershuni? No, they chased me out. No, they there's a better word, not chased out. They whatever. Drove me away. Thank you. Yeah, that's a better way, probably. B'nachlas Hashem leimar lecha avoid elikim acherim, and that's ki'ilu. They told me go worship another. Oh, that's the word. Ki gershuni, they expelled me. Thank you. Who told David to worship another God? It's because he lived in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, fine. We'll stop right over here. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day. And now we have to try to upload this and see if it can make it to Eretz Yisrael.